Most artists try to avoid mistakes, but mistakes are literally how your brain learns. Every mistake is a mini lesson. Some quick background. I studied neuroscience and neurobiology because of my son who had cerebral palsy and epilepsy. He's the reason I got into it. And so I got into neuroscience, neurobiology, tissue engineering, a lot of microbiology or overall biology kind of studies. And so anyway, that's why I know a thing or two about neuroscience. So that being said, so your brain strengthens corrections more than easy wins. What does that mean? In the past, I've seen other people talk about how if you make mistakes, you're going to always do it that way. That's not true. The truth is, if you continue to make the same mistakes over and over and over with compounding them without actually looking at what you're doing and not focusing on what you're doing, thus focus practice, you're going to run into those same issues. You're training yourself to do it the wrong way. That's different than doing something wrong a couple of times or doing something slightly wrong each time. You know, when you go to do stuff, you're going to make little mistakes along the way. And interestingly, when you draw really slow, your brain is trying to constantly adjust. And that's why you get those little squiggly lines. But if you go quick, your brain doesn't have a chance to constantly do those little micro shifts. It's trying to get to the end goal. It's trying to do too many things at once. And so you get these little squiggly lines. I always say this: if you're not uncomfortable, if you're not confused, you're not learning. So it might being wrong or doing something incorrectly or making mistakes feels bad, but it's actually a learning moment. It's telling you that you don't know how to do this yet, and there's nothing wrong with that. We can all improve, of course. However, being conscious of what you need to improve and not just doing the things that are comfortable. Try to force yourself. I'm always trying to force myself to do something that you're not good at or to do something that makes you feel uncomfortable so that you're always pushing yourself into learning something new. You know, push comes to shove. If you're doing drawing from memory or improving, so to speak, you're going to do what you have practice and you're going to lean on the things that you know. And so if you only ever focus on the things that you're comfortable with, when it comes time to doing improv, you're not going to have as many tools in your belt, in your utility belt, you know, things like chicken scratching lines, because you're afraid to commit. It's a fear of failure. And so you go squiggling a little tiny bit and a little bit at a time, trying to get to the end goal without making mistakes along the way. And as such, I'll just say it this way. A lot of beginners will do chicken scratching. They'll over erase, constantly trying to fix what they're drawing because they don't want anybody to know that they did something wrong, including themselves. And they'll hide bad proportions with detail, trying to make every line perfect. That's really avoidance and not construction, and you're not getting anywhere. You're better off, honestly, drawing huge masses of things first, and then working your details slowly and sort of sculpting your way in, than to try to do it right away. Now, you might see there are plenty of artists who have the ability to just draw straight ahead without construction drawing. I am not one of those artists. Like, I can sort of do it, but like for me, for one thing, I really enjoy the construction process because it's kind of cool to see it unfold. And it still shocks me that I can draw well enough like that I'm drawing how my comic artists growing up, that, you know, drawing in that style was something I always wanted to be able to do. For instance, this hand, I'm using mass construction, right? And I'm slowly letting it build rather than thinking like, how do I make this perfect? It's more like I just draw on top of my drawing. I just keep building until I'm happy with what I see. So what I used to do was, especially when I was younger, I wanted to have a finished drawing right away. You know, I would avoid construction, and I just thought like, it's a waste of time. But I was also young and I didn't realize how useful it is. I was like, well, I'm not that kind of a beginner. Of course I am. Everybody's that kind of a beginner. And you can get much faster, believable forms by construction drawing. And I'm not saying you can't erase, by the way. Erasing is fine. It's just over erasing. The over erasing, and in this video, by the way, when I was drawing, I was trying to make mistakes on purpose to show like it's okay to screw up. And I was doing stuff a little better than I intended it to be at certain points. And I was actually kind of funny. I was kind of struggling to fail by using the method that I use. And that's just because I'm used to doing it. But there's nothing wrong with making adjustments. Like, just because you put the pencil in the wrong place one time is not like, oh, you're always going to do that now. That's just goofy. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to lean into those mistakes and make them and learn to grow from them, with them, from them, however you want to think of it. And then, yeah. And again, erasing, there's nothing wrong with it. It's as long as you're not erasing to just fix everything or to start over constantly, but more like you're adjusting as you go, that's fine. It's like trying to hide all the perfect little lines and keep drawing the same thing over and over again that you should avoid. Yeah. And also when you're picking on your own artwork, which we all do that. All right. We all pick on our own stuff. We are all our own worst critics. That is a mouthful. So rather than say like, this sucks, you should really look at what is specifically wrong, because I started doing that to myself years ago. And like, looking at it sort of objectively, thinking like, okay, why does this look wrong to me? I know it doesn't look good, but why does it not look good? And if you can answer the why, it will prove you far better than being like, I suck, I just can't do this. Obviously, saying you suck, can't do it, you're not ever going to get it done. So learning to just be introspective, but also be kind to yourself, just kind of like, it's fine that you didn't do what you intended, but how can you next time? Or how can you fix that drawing? You know, especially drawing digitally, it's very easy to want to start over. And that's why it's nice to draw on paper, because paper won't allow you to very easily erase your whatever progress you've made. You have to start over. And for a lot of people, that can be overwhelming, especially in the beginning when you don't draw fast. And you're like, man, this took me like an hour just to get a hand down. I understand. It used to take me forever to draw stuff. Sometimes it still does. I mean, drawing on those little art cards as an aside, it takes me a lot more time than I expect. It actually takes me like 30 minutes. I could draw a larger drawing in far less time on a larger piece of paper. But again, it's a challenge. So yeah, when something looks wrong, just like, hey, like, is it proportion? Is the angle? What is it? The angle it's at? Maybe half of the face or something. Is it the wrong angle to the other part of the face? And I think I end up drawing that way later in this video. And is it the mass? Is the mass misproportioned? Is the perspective wrong? Maybe you were trying to draw in a 3-point perspective and you were drawing in a 1-point perspective. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that's you'll start to understand that by just doing it. You have to fail forward. Yeah, alignment. Like, do things make sense to each other? Is your gesture fluid feeling, or does it feel stiff? Now, sometimes you might want a character to be stiff, especially like if they're freaking out because they're petrified, someone's chasing them, going to, hunt them down kind of a thing. Fine. But most of the time you want your characters to be in more natural poses. And there are websites, and I mentioned this when I was drawing, there are websites such as Line of Action, which are really great about teaching you how to, kind of forces you to look for how the curvature of the spine is. It's very natural. The spine is not a straight line, the center of gravity and all that good stuff. You have the center of gravity for what you're drawing, how people are postured how their limbs move and all that good stuff. And I don't think you have to be like an anatomy expert, but anatomy for artists is different than anatomy. Plenty of people in my anatomy classes that didn't know how to draw, and we all had to draw stuff for anatomy, was part of the course, par for course, if you will. And it's not necessarily that you have to know every muscle. You should know the surface muscles, especially if you're drawing, a comic character, or if you're drawing whatever it is you're drawing, you want it to be believable. So knowing how the proportion of something should look, it makes it easier for you to exaggerate it. And not because you don't know any better, because if you don't know where to start from, it's hard to exaggerate or to cartoon something. A lot of the cartoonists that you love went through traditional drawing classes. Maybe there are exceptions to that, but most cartoonists, most animators, most everyone who's in art has gone through a traditional art class in some way or shape or the other. Yeah, and so realism is the default, right? And what that just means is that the first thing you usually end up drawing is still life, and then you move into figure drawing or whatever, you draw animals and this, that, and the other. But realism trains observation. Observation is good for building that visual library. And that visual library allows you to draw from imagination very easily. Your imagination will definitely let you know what you do and don't know. Drawing from your imagination will be like, well, I don't know how to draw an arm straight on, like foreshortening, or I don't know how to draw a hand without looking at a reference, and my hand here is pretty terrible. And I was using this as a reference, by the way, of being able to draw something terrible is okay. You can learn from, and I was doing it as a construction thing, you can learn to embrace not knowing. It's okay if you don't know. The only way to learn is to try it. You're going to learn what you don't know, and you'll learn also what you do know. And so you're like, okay, so I don't really need to work so much on hands maybe, but feet, definitely got to work on feet. Or me personally, like one of the things I usually struggle with is drawing believable feet. Someone without shoes. I usually just gesture it. I don't always give into the full detail of it, mostly because I was just like, I don't do all that. But sometimes you need to. And so that's why I started drawing the human form basically naked and in underwear is how I would usually draw it. That way, the only thing you can do, you're kind of forced to draw what the human figure should look like. And you can't hide behind clothes and stuff like that. Yeah, repeating mistakes without analysis. Yeah, that's true. I'm looking at my list over here of things I wanted to talk about. Repeating mistakes without analysis is stagnation. So you're never going to move forward if you're always doing the same things without thinking about, no one wants to fail. Nobody wants to feel like they're failing. No one wants to be wrong. That's human nature. But you have to step back and be like, am I doing everything I could be doing? Can I grow by looking at anything? Maybe I am making mistakes and I don't realize I'm making mistakes. The only way to know is to really just verify by going back and looking at what hands actually look like, or looking at feet, or looking at an entire posture. Again, drawing from reference will help reinforce your visual library. It's not something you should ever just get rid of. Drawing from imagination is just a good stretch for your brain. In my opinion, what it'll do is it'll connect those synapses to how you observe the world and what you store in your brain, and vice versa. And this keeps happening. Then you start seeing way more detail in things, in color and shading and tint and all that stuff, as well as the shape of stuff. You'll start to see things in their form and be able to draw it 3D by looking at a 2D image. Being aware of what you don't know is what's going to help you grow. And it takes time to get there. I mean, in the beginning, you feel like you don't know anything. And then after a while, you feel like you know a little bit. And then as long as you don't let yourself get arrogant, you're always going to feel like there's something more that you could work on or get better at. And something more, there's always something more to learn. That's true. But just try this for a while. Do me a favor and just try this. This is what I started doing, especially during the pandemic. Don't erase immediately. Study it, adjust it, let it teach you. Don't necessarily erase, but adjusting. Like, you can draw over the same lines. You can shade it in a little bit, shade it out. When in doubt, shade it out. And just give yourself the opportunity to fail. That's all I'm saying. It's okay to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. And you're going to learn from those mistakes far more than feeling like you know what you're doing. Feel like you know what you're doing, you have nothing to learn. If you're not confused, you're not learning. And if you're the kind of person that feels like you have to, if you feel like a perfectionist, if you feel like it should always be right before I ever put anything out, don't do that. Just don't do it. I mean, really finish a drawing, get it done, do another one. Get a sketchbook you don't care about. That's what this sketchbook is. I bought it for, I don't know, I got it at Target. It was like, I don't know, $10 or something. Whatever you can afford. I mean, whatever cheap. I have other sketchbooks that I've had other ones that are even cheaper. Just get something cheap. A stack of copy paper or something, whatever. Draw on it, put it in the recycle bin, start over again. Just keep doing that. Don't hold on to them. Make it so that it's not sentimental and you could care less if you lose it. Because if you're holding on to it because it's this precious thing, you're never going to draw on it as fast as you need to get better, as much as you need to get better. You have to keep failing forward. And I keep trying. I'm always trying to improve. And I don't feel like I know all there is to know, like not anywhere near. I keep pushing myself until I get better. And hopefully you'll do the same. So give yourself a benefit of the doubt. It's okay to make mistakes. Embrace them, learn from them, and keep going. If you made it this far, I very much appreciate hanging out, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.